All right, welcome to the Sushi Forum, where we discuss this week's news, proposals, and developments in the Sushi Swap ecosystem. Accompanied by Tangle and Orion Muir, as always. Thanks everybody for coming out this week. Let's get right into some of the sushi news. In terms of AMAs, we had the AMA with I Trust Finance, an AMA with Halo DAO, and an AMA with Beefy Finance. Tangle, you were incredibly busy this week with AMAs.
Yeah, it was busy this week. Tuesday, of course, having Halo. And then Halo and Beefy back to back. So that was fun and informative. But yeah, it was really cool with Beefy. And they've kind of had their beef sushi week promotion going on. So they actually have had $500 in Beefy awards for anybody who spoke up and asked questions and participated. So there's 6 winners from that. So shout out to Zappaccini, Ulas, or AHH 1258, Bacon and Deadlifts, Poussance, and Sign. So we'll make an announcement in the main channel as well here, listing everybody. But I think I've got all of your addresses at this point. So thank you so much for speaking up. And yeah, just goes to show that engagement is usually a motivator. So yeah, thank you all for participating in that. So and then we had go ahead.
I was just going to ask, do you have other miso AMAs planned for next week as well?
No miso stuff coming up, but yeah, in touch with some onsen protocols right now. So we hopefully have something lined up for next week. So stay tuned with that, and yeah, I'll keep you posted on my Twitter and of course in the announcement channels on the server.
So. Awesome. We also had the Sushi Incubator announced, and with Steer Finance as the first partner project, I think. And this is just a quote. Sushi has agreed on a stake of the Steers governance token for support during incubation, and as such, we consider Steer to be on par with our ecosystem. Steer Finance is a multi-chain platform that allows users to deposit funds into strategies that deploy across multiple chains. So my mind goes directly to sort of cross-chain bento box, which would be pretty cool. But I don't know if that's exactly what they're working on. But regardless, it's pretty cool to be getting some strategy partners in. I don't know if any. I think there's maybe a sushi strategy in the bento box, but I don't know if there's been any real developments on the strategy side. So
I thought there was one from Yearn, like a really simple one where it would like provide liquidity to USDT, USDC from one other asset. I believe I could be mistaken though in their experimental vaults.
Oh, I mean, it might be with the bento box.
With at least Kashi, I thought I could be mistaken.
Okay, I don't know. Yeah. Either way, it's great to get a new partner that's specifically developing strategies. And we also had the Inside the Chef's Jacket interview with 0x Cabbage, head of product design, which is a great interview series. It's on the Sushi Swap Medium. Yeah, I will say there's alpha in the interview. Go through and read it. There's some great stuff in there. And there's also an Encode Club AMA with Joseph DeLong, the CTO of Sushi. If you just Google Joseph DeLong Encode Club, it'll be like the first thing. And he gave an AMA as part of the Hack Africa Hackathon event that Sushi has co-sponsored. And just some small news. Sushi's trading on the Newton Crypto Exchange now, which is a Canadian exchange. Never used it, but it's always good to be getting more listings. Uniquely to launch a wrapped NFT launching wrapped NFT collections as U tokens on the Miso Launchpad. So this announcement is basically, if you're aware of NFTX, I think it's something akin to that, where you could have a collection of certain types of NFTs, and you can mint tokens against it to make it a more fungible NFT collection. Essentially, get more ownership into it, and they'll be launching that on the Miso Launchpad so that they can auction off the token and supposedly get better pricing, price discovery.
Yeah, I heard a good interview with one of the former developers at MakerDAO as part of that project, and dealing with fractionalized NFTs, and it was really, really good talk. I highly recommend it, and I'm excited to see that that platform made it onto Miso.
Yeah, I'm like slightly curious if it has anything to do with Shoyu as well, but I don't know. We'll have to wait on that, I think.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, because they're fraction. I think they're looking at high-end NFTs. A lot of the like the to get a piece of like a cyberpunk and stuff, and kind of like that kind of angle seemed more their stuff. What was I just about to? Oh, it was. I never mentioned it was Delphi podcast was where if anyone was interested in listening to that.
Gotcha. How do you spell that?
Delphi,
Oh,
DEL.
Delphi. Sorry, I thought you said
Yeah,
Belphi.
yeah, no. I sometimes say weird things.
No worries. And also, just the last bit of announcement news is that the Sushi incentives will go live on Harmony Protocol on July 5th. And that's going to be 2 million in liquidity rewards, and then 2 million in Kashi rewards as well. So if you're on Harmony, or if you're not on Harmony yet, you should check it out. I am not on Harmony, but I am definitely going to be checking it out after the show later.
Has anybody here used Harmony yet? Just curious to get any feedback, to see how different it is from, I don't know, I've used Polygon and Phantom, but I haven't used really anywhere else. Curious if anybody's got any experience with Harmony. Nope.
Bunch of Harmony virgins.
Not really popular.
You have HHK? What?
No, never tried.
Okay.
I tried eHarmony, but wasn't very successful there.
Nice.
All right, well, next week we'll all be Harmony experts, because we'll all be right. We'll hop on Harmony.
2 million in Kashi rewards. I'm like, how can they even? Is that over like years or something?
So okay, I'm gonna move on to the proposal we have this week. That was all sort of like the news and announcements. The major proposal. Oh, sorry.
Say, Turtle, maybe just before we move into the proposals here, just say that the in regards, I guess, to the proposals here, was that the snapshot is fixed, and it sounds as though next week we are going to be looking at some voting happening here. So yeah, exciting stuff for us to be able to start voting again on some proposals. Sounded like just stay posted or stay tuned to the Twitter, the Sushi Twitter, and we'll see what those will be announced there with what things that the core is going to start looking at for voting on those proposals. So
I'm putting my foot down. I want a I voted sushi sticker for
Perfect.
voting in snapshot.
So and then I guess that kind of leads into a couple other things too. So that is also something we're looking at adding in. So there are popes available once we do get the voting. That option is existing, and we've kind of got that worked in as well. So yeah, again, just another sweet thing for voting is you should be able to get a pope as well for voting. So we're going to try and implement that. I know everybody's excited about the popes, and I just want to say I'm really sorry. As of this week, I broke the robot, so I used it too much, and it ended up Discord has prevented us from issuing anymore. It now flags it. So what I've done, we're actually working with Peg Batak. He's helping a lot here. We're going to come up with a solution for everyone so that everybody can claim their past popes, and even one from today as well. So we'll get there. Just please bear with us, and hopefully next week we can have the bot fixed, because it was working so well. As you were in the room for 5 minutes, it kicked you an automatic pope, and it was just really convenient for everyone. But that is a good point, Turtle, that voting is now, well, hopefully we can have it ready to go, that we can give you a pope for voting, saying, I voted. So
Yeah, because I don't know if other people feel this way, but when I'm voting in the national election, about 50 to 60% of the entire reason I'm showing up is to get that sticker.
there it is. That's what it's all about. So it has to happen. We have to get popes ready. We got to.
All right, moving on to the noteworthy proposals, we have the Cashi lending add new VWAP oracles from DIA to increase asset availability, made by Robot or / the DIA team. So Zoom, I don't know if you want to take it away and sort of introduce. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, certainly. So I think Yankee is sharing his screen. I know. Going to keep it conversational, but you just wanted to give you guys a visual aid if anything's needed, just to kind of keep pace with what we're doing. So just as a brief intro, myself, as you know, Zoom, work here at DIA. Also have our CTO, Samuel, on the line as well. We'll walk you through a bit of the proposal, but really just trying to get feedback from the community, get an understanding of the things that we're doing right today and what we're doing wrong. That way, when it comes time, if the team and the community think it's something they're interested in, we have a product that appropriately fits the Kashi needs. So just a quick background on what DIA is. We're a decentralized Oracle data provider. We're ingesting data from centralized and decentralized exchanges, applying proprietary methodology, so normalizing, sanitizing, cleansing it, to then turn around and propagate that information by Oracle smart contracts over API. We've integrated with quite a few EVMs compatible blockchains. So think, BSC, quite a few parachains in the Polkadot ecosystem, and others. And we've also integrated with traditional asset managers. So we have a track record of building VWAP feeds, have expertise, obviously, having done so in the past for folks like a Grayscale, and building on stuff like that. So we wanted to bring our expertise on this side of the playing field to Kashi. We think it's a value add. So, anyways, moving on to the next slide. Yeah.
Just to interrupt you here, I just want to make sure everybody realizes that this is that they can actually see your screen being shared if they're in the voice lounge. If you go into in there and click on Yankee, that'll pull up there. So just want to give everybody a heads up that that's available, so that you can kind of go through as you're describing it. So.
Well, yeah. Thanks for that. Yeah. So just quickly continuing on, a bit of background on the proposal. So effectively, we believe that pushing a volume weighted average price feed has quite a few benefits to a TWAP feed. In a few instances, taking into account long tail assets, where you can get a better representation of the fair market price of a given digital asset market at any one given point in time. one of the things that was stressed in the forums was making sure that this entire process is decentralized, making sure from the ingestion through then calculating and then pushing out the data to the smart contract, there is no sort of room for any man-in-the-middle attacks, whether malicious or just some fault of the system of its own. So I think Samuel will talk a bit about that next. Some of the things that we're doing on the technical side. If you want to move on to the next slide.
Yeah, thanks. So basically what we do, I'm going to walk through a bit the step from data ingestion until data output, and also what kind of sets us apart from other teams, I guess. So yeah, first of all, it begins pretty simple. So we pull data from sexes and dexes. We have independent scraper nodes for each of the exchanges. We are also, we always aim for getting each individual trade, because we want to make calculations on top of trades. We don't want to rely on any kind of reported averages or something. We say, we need to trust the exchange that their average calculation is correct or makes sense. But yeah, we go for trades, and for DEXs, we also run our own blockchain node so that we can get trades directly from the source as part of the peer-to-peer network where we are participating. Store them in a time series database so that we can always, almost like a series of measurements of, I don't know, the weather, we can always get the data again. We also store all of our filtering that we do there so that we can easily access it again. Filtering means that we look for, for example, for volume weighted average pricing over, for example, 2 minutes. When we have, these prices, we also have a way to basically measure any price of an asset against another asset. So if we want to determine how much ETH a Bitcoin is worth, this is natively possible. What we also do is outlier detection. That means that if there's trades with prices that are too far off the average from that time, we have some filters that ignore these. So this is not necessarily in each of the filters, but some filters have this outlier detection. By that, we can be sure that we do not rely on external aggregation, but that we can calculate it always ourselves. Then we output all the data in our API. And from there on, it can be used in Oracle. So this is obviously the main case for DeFi. And at the moment, we are running the Oracle. So that means we are running the smart contracts, and we are updating the smart contract. But our API is built in a way that we can also output a signature of that data and the timestamp and kind of a identifier of the data. And this is also this can be ingested by other Oracle providers or by a DeFi app market or by whoever wants to use this data and then put on chain. And the special thing about the signature is that we can use private keys that are associated with public keys that are also wallets on Ethereum that are, again, in our control, where we can prove, okay, this is controlled by the DIA smart contracts or by the DIA addresses. So that basically then you can do an on-chain check. If you see an Oracle value and a signature, you can see, okay, is this really the true signed value from the DIA API? And if yes, you can see which wallet has signed it, and then you can check if this was our wallet. So the idea is that anyone can run an Oracle, because our focus is more on data management and on price detection and everything around that. We don't necessarily want to be the only Oracle provider on top of our data. So we want to offer the flexibility that everyone can run an Oracle. And what we're currently developing is also mostly in the area of improving our data product. Maybe two features of security where we're currently working at. One is together with the IBM Cloud Computing department. We're looking into their implementation of confidential computing. So that's basically a secure element on the servers, which can do a bunch of crypto operations. And we are, one of the applications we are looking into and where we are doing research together with IBM is to look how can we basically provision Docker images, so versions of our code from GitHub, so that an outsider can also get a manifest from that secure enclave, from the confidential computing machine, that this image is actually running. So this would be kind of the king's way to prove to an outsider that we are running the actual software from GitHub on our servers. So this is work in progress, as well as the second, I think, interesting project where we are going to hash our entire historical database with a Merkle tree continuously over time and publishing the root periodically on chain, so that we as database operators cannot change the database history at any time, because otherwise the hashing tree wouldn't be wouldn't add up again in the future. So these are basically our initiatives in terms of security, and we are especially interested in feedback on this everyone can run an Oracle idea, because this would be something where I think such a community like Sushi could be a cool partner, cool project to work together with, and we're very open to feedback for that.
Sorry, I was on mute. So just to wrap up here, obviously Samuel gave a pretty good background on what we're doing on the technical side. And I think that's what's most important. A lot of the concerns that were raised in the forum was around how can we verify that there are no malicious actors between DIA and what is being pushed to Sushi. So this is largely a collaborative process. It's how we see it on our end. We aren't looking to implement or integrate from day zero. It's something that we would like feedback from the community on. We have a given set of expertise and strong understanding of the way enterprise data works in terms of deploying it to large asset managers and playing with it on chain. Obviously, one of the concerns is how we manage our infrastructure today, but that is something that we would obviously are working towards sort of massaging, and also if there's something that we can do for the SushiSwap community in terms of a way we should be approaching this solution, that's something that we would obviously love to do in conjunction. So just to wrap things up, happy to hear feedback, happy to answer any questions, and learn what it is that we're doing right, and more importantly, what it is that we're doing wrong. So thanks. I think you can stop sharing now, Yankee.
All right, awesome. So I had one question I wanted to ask just to get it out of the way. Are there any? Are you integrated with any DeFi apps currently?
Yeah. So obviously we're deployed across quite a few EVM chains, working integration now with Define. We have integrations with Injective Protocol, WowSwap, serving as the main Oracle provider for Standard, and on Plasm, Macala, and Moonbeam. Serving as the main Oracle provider for the DeFi apps that will be built on top of that and the applications themselves. We're also servicing the enterprise data space, working with traditional asset managers on that side.
Okay, gotcha. So yeah, you guys have like a number of integrations and platforms that are actively using it right now.
Yeah, correct.
Have you guys had any discussions or interest from any of the core Sushi team?
I think we've reached out, and the response that we've gotten was that obviously the team was a bit busy. So we thought it made sense to approach it from this angle, hear from the community first, and if there was interest to sort of build up from there. If there are any thoughts that the core Sushi team has, we would love to hear them, consider them, and work on them.
I am curious about how when you put the pricing data on chain, you're pushing that to Ethereum.
Yeah, so I think
We are pushing it to a bunch of chains. So we started off with Ethereum because that's where the main interest is and was, I guess. But we also have integrations into a lot of EVM compatible chains and also some non-EVM compatible chains. So for example, on Near, we have a request-based oracle, but we are we are capable of launching integrations into EVM-based chains pretty quickly. And we're also always open to new ideas. So recently, for example, we also added the ability to choose between a frequency-based update, so I don't know, every X minutes, to updates based on changes in the base price. So if there's a price change of whatever basis points, we can react to that. And our infrastructure, basically requires to have access to some node. Doesn't need to be run by us, but obviously we prefer to run our own nodes so that we can have a bit more control, so that we don't run into a Infura situation where the node is suddenly down because some update wasn't installed. But yeah, so in short, we can run on multiple chains, and we also have integrations and demo oracles kind of running on, I think, 6 to 10 different EVM chains. I'm not sure about the exact number.
Yeah, I think we're covering already a bunch of the ones relevant for Kashi, being a Polygon, BSC, XDAI, and as Samuel said, we have a very quick turnaround on adding this. So, for example, Harmony or something.
I was curious if you guys have had any struggles with the network congestion on Polygon and how, I'm sure you guys have your own private node and stuff, but if that's been an issue.
Yeah, that was an issue. So basically, we have so what we use to mitigate congestion, if it is it's only a congestion in terms of there's too many transactions and not if it's an actual technical fault where the nodes stop working at all, is that we have basically an increasing volume of gas that we apply to transactions when they could fail. But yeah, the recent situation was tough when everyone wanted to get their transactions through.
And I was also curious, is it a how expensive, I guess, is it to like push the data onto Ethereum?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So during the kind of high gas times a few months ago, we were looking at transaction fees per update. If we measure it in US dollars, something between 8 and 10 in the most extreme cases. So really, really expensive. At the moment, we are at, I think, under $1 to $1.20, something like that. So it always depends. I mean, it's obviously not free to push it in terms of gas, but on the other hand, at the moment it's okay. But we also pushed through the entire time, so we didn't stop the oracles or something when it was expensive, even though we have some demo oracles where we are just updating without any direct customers on these oracles.
Yeah, is there I mean, I'm not a dev, so I'm really struggling here, but I'm trying to think like is it possible for that entire on-chain push of data to be moved to something like a roll up or something like that would drastically allow you to cut down on the gas cost?
Depends. So if the actual application that is working with the data is on a roll up, it could work, but in the end, the problem is we are pushing external data in, and at some point we need to get it into the chain. And yeah, each byte basically counts and can't be really compressed. So we had a look at some of the roll-up systems. Isn't a generic way, but if there's a concrete application that says, okay, we are using this and that algorithm on this and that roll-up, there might be some solution, but there's, to our knowledge, not really a generic one where we can say, okay, we can have the same functionality of an instantly accessible oracle for everyone on the chain, but cheaper. So that's unfortunately not how it works.
But I mean, we
sorry, go
we
ahead.
we already we already do see the benefits of lower transaction costs of networks such as Polygon, obviously, where it becomes much cheaper to push a higher update frequency, or also to enable long tail assets where the TVL versus the cost of keeping such markers updated is in a much more favorable way. So I think it makes a ton of sense to have a bunch of these long tail asset markets on Kashi also. Possibly not on ETH main, but on one of these chains.
And sorry, hold on.
Well, I'll fill in this space. What are the incentives for protocols to be an oracle for you, and how big do they have to be in order for you to have interest?
Yeah.
I mean,
go ahead, Paul.
just in general, I think we're founded on the belief that transparent data should be accessible to anyone. So we don't scrutinize for size. So that's why we also work with a bunch of like very small projects who are pre-launch or just in launch and try to deliver them the best set of data possibly out there. So size is not a defining factor for us to collaborate or not. We try to, with a, I guess, community-based approach in identifying new data sources. I think we're pretty well equipped to scale fast and are able to cater also to smaller players. So this is not like size is not needed to collaborate with us.
And I was curious if you guys had looked into the Sushi Swap or Kashi specifically contracts to see sort of how difficult it would be to integrate with the oracles. If it's just like a simple adding of a contract address, or if it's would require a little bit more. I don't even know if you guys have looked at the contracts yet, or
So there's basically two ways how we could make this. One way, which I think is working best when there's kind of a new product, is that we basically generate an Oracle contract where people can, or where smart contracts can call our contract to ask for a new price. But that obviously doesn't work when there's already a deployed contract. And if I remember correctly, the price update function or the price update mechanism in Sushi is callable by external parties. And I think, then we could also basically amend our contract so that we can basically make a push request as soon as there's a new price to the Sushi system.
I can say from experience that it is fairly difficult to call the values of the Kashi tokens themselves. You have to convert them to fractions to shares on the Kashi layers, and then shares to amount on the bento box layer. My platform had trouble with this for a little bit.
Okay, yeah, I didn't have a look into all the details, but I just think that we can work with that. So if there's a way, we will find a solution, I guess.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I guess does anybody have any questions who from the community? It's totally open, so if anybody wants to say something or bring something up, it's totally a-okay.
Who are your constituents?
Here, I guess I'll answer that. Oh, Paul, if you want to go ahead.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, so it's largely what we're abiding by as a methodology, right? So the constituents are flexible, and it largely depends on the market that we're feeding data for. So every single exchange doesn't obviously have the same exact market set. So if we're deploying a VWAP feed for, let's take example, or company X, they need a feed for any given market. We'll go out, find the markets that abide by the methodology. So pretty much we try to keep it as flexible as possible, but we go out and see what the liquidity is, turn around, provision them with a volume report, and then plug in constituents to the cohort from there. So for whatever given market it is that we're going to be providing VWAP feeds theoretically for on the Kashi product, we would then go out, source the exchange data, and then turn around and include that in the cohort. So you're not going to have a predefined set of exchanges. Coinbase, Bitstamp, Uniswap, XYZ aren't all listing the same assets. So every market will have a different list of spot markets where you're sourcing that trade data from.
And is there like I don't know if you said this earlier, but is there a threshold to trade volume that you have before you use a specific market for a token's trade data?
So
Yeah.
usually, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Usually we have a few considerations when we are adding new markets. So I assume you're talking about the data collection, right? So as soon as it's on a DEX, we usually get the data pretty quickly, because we can monitor all the pairs on DEXs. On SEXs, it depends on the SEX if they because normally they also have some liquidity requirements before they add a pair or before they add an asset. And on the side of I guess updating our list of exchanges when we say, okay, there might be a new exchange, there we usually have a look at how important is that exchange. But if there's demand, and we also are open for community input there, even in form of just opening a ticket in our GitHub ticket system, then we obviously have a look at the exchange and see, okay, is this relevant for us? Do they have relevant pairs? Because having more trades even from a small exchange for existing assets only improves the price quality.
Okay, and also, sorry, I'm jumping around a little bit, but for the secure protected computation or confidential computation stuff that your team is working on, are you guys how like fully complete are you at looking into that, or is that sort of more preliminary right now?
That's pretty preliminary, yes. It's an explorative work at the moment, and we're currently finding out what the boundaries are of the secure element on the CPU. So which parts of the system can we attest and which we can't. So it's preliminary. There's not really a definite roadmap out there where we say at this time we will have it, but it's something we're looking into because it fits perfectly into our needs. And if we manage to get it going, it would be a great addition to our tech stack. And also think in general for a lot of other use cases that are completely not in DeFi, this could be pretty interesting.
Yeah, the whole system that you described, where you have the signature of the oh shit, crap, the container, not the container.
Yeah. I mean, this could even work. I don't know, for Android apps, right?
I'm sorry, I missed you. What did you say?
even this could even be interesting for a use case like, I don't know, apps on a smartphone. So that you say, okay, you have the open source app, because at the moment you have the open source code, for example, on Android for an app, and you can't really be sure if your phone is actually running that.
Oh, yeah,
or if there's
exactly.
some exchange of code. So this could be interesting in a lot of spaces, but yeah, we try it for DeFi first.
Yeah, like I
Yeah,
mean,
and I think
this could just lead to like the removal of spyware from all software, basically.
I mean, when we look at this from crypto data perspective, I think this is pretty unique. It's an issue every data provider in the space is having, that as soon as you aggregate data and put some computation around that, nobody's able to actually show to the outside in a trustful manner that the computation has actually been executed. So it's something we don't have live. We're pushing, and it's very much in IBM's interest to have this live quite quickly. So it's highly prioritized also on their IT team. But it's something nobody else also can claim to have. So I think we're currently in a similar set with others, and having this then will set us apart. And we'll hope, obviously, that more providers, competitors, whoever, will also use such a technology in the future.
All right. Well, I mean, like, does anybody have questions? A lot of quiet people this week. I am.
I just
very
had
ex- Oh yeah, go ahead. Go
a
ahead.
real quick question. If you guys have conflicts in, let's say that you're pulling from 5 different CAXes and for pricing data, for instance, and obviously there's latency issues, and then there's different trades. What's the do you decide with the client what the algorithm's going to be to deal with conflicts, or do you have a set playbook in terms of how to deal with both latency and also divergence?
Yeah. So usually on divergence, we have the ability to add an outlier range filter. So that means it's basically from data modeling. So we take all the measurements as data points. Then we are putting them basically on a how you call it, on a scale. So basically from the smallest to the biggest, and then it's the whole range is divided into 4 equally spaced margins, and the lowest and the biggest one are ignored. So this is the most basic filter we have for interquartile range filtering. This would be the standard method. But if a client wants something different, we can also talk about that and see that we can implement that into our data as an additional filter.
Do you ever? I mean, how quickly would you be able to do something like an influence statistic to filter in that way, as opposed to something like a non-parametric filter like what you described?
How quick in terms of development time or in terms of execution time?
Computational time.
Computational time. So I think, hard to answer, because I mean this obviously depends on the actual data.
Sure.
But I think somewhere in the area of seconds should be possible. If we have sex data. If we have DEX data, it doesn't make sense to be so quick.
Right. Okay. I appreciate it.
Thank you for the question.
Awesome. Thank you, Groot. Yeah. So are just your biggest concerns out of the gateway is just sort of getting the community on board? I know you mentioned briefly that you or possibly reached out to the Sushi team, and they said that right now they were just super busy.
Yeah, I think it was a bit of a muted response. Not saying that that's exactly what their intentions were, but I think that maybe we didn't do the best job reaching out, or maybe we weren't clear in our intentions. But ultimately, our goal would like to be to obviously integrate this product, but do so correctly, and that requires A, the community, and B, obviously the core team to offer their input. So would be fantastic if there was somebody who from the core team who'd be willing to sit down with us, and we can talk through the proposal at further depth and figure out stuff from there.
Yeah, absolutely, and like I think the entire it's important to stress the entire goal here is to get more asset diversity and user choice onto Kashi. That's the
No,
whole.
understood. Yeah, I mean, I think that's something that we try to iterate, right? We don't think that we should be the only provider, right? I mean, obviously that won't be the case, and we don't think it's extremely naive to say that our solution is the correct solution. At the end of the day, it's obviously a very community-driven product, and we'd like for it to be that way, right? If there's a user that thinks we're approaching it from the right way and wants to use our data feeds, we'd like to be able to be there to service them.
I feel like being devil's advocate. So, in what ways are you not the perfect Oracle feed?
Well, yeah, I mean, certainly, I think those concerns were raised in the forum themselves, right? And I think we've done some things to, what Samuel's discussed, the technical side today, to say why we are a bit more decentralized than it seems. But then also on the other side, right, some folks may believe that utilizing a VWAP methodology may not be the best way to go about it, or our internal methodology in terms of which constituents we want to include in a price feed are too strict or are too loose. So largely that's subjective, right? We think we're doing things the right way. We have strong relationship with enterprise data providers, folks that have worked in the traditional index and asset management space, that have given us their expertise in terms of how we can put together frameworks that are ISO compliant, and do stuff that way. Obviously, here in the DeFi space, we're looking to sort of reinvent the wheel or do things a better way, and maybe the way that folks think that we're approaching it is too close to the old guard. So but again, subjective, right? But it's a differing opinion. I think we're doing things pretty unique, and obviously, we wouldn't be here if we didn't think we had some unique value to provide.
Yeah, I think just to add on this, so first of all, we're not like tribal, and we're kind of happy that there are a lot of Oracle solutions out there, because each one of them is focusing a bit more on one aspect of security or whatever it might be. So as it was raised and we discussed, we do less so focus on the distribution of nodes in the core product. Reason for this is that we believe that a lot of attempts to heal the attack vector have not 100% been addressed with these solutions, and we're very much more focused on actually providing a high level of transparency, so everybody knows where data is pulled from, what is being done with that data, so what's ending up in the smart contract. So I think you can argue for sure for that one is more important than the other. Something we also highlighted, I think, in the proposal is that we believe it requires to bring some additional transparency, ideally that says, okay, this Oracle's use, what are the properties of it, and potential, let's call them shortcomings or specific or specs of it, that should be transparent to the people pulling up these markets or using them.
Actually reminded me of a question I wanted to ask. Have you guys considered trying to become an additional data provider for Chainlink price feeds? Like you could even, I imagine that you could even do it just as a totally separate thing on the side that would just, yeah, I guess
Yeah.
generate income for.
We,
Go ahead.
I mean, it's something we did actually like just at some point discuss that it would probably provide value, but there are some aspects of the Chainlink solution where we believe even us adding our data feed wouldn't increase the transparency of what feed is actually ending up in a smart contract. So yeah, we could potentially do this. It's not something, as I said, we're not like traveling away. So it's something we didn't push. We're open. So if there's a need, it's not something we wouldn't do. But yeah.
Gotcha. It was just like a random thought I had. It's interesting to get to hear that you guys had thought about it as well and looked into it.
No, I mean, as I said, I think we founded DIA on really on the belief to make transparent data as accessible as possible. So we, if this is through a project which could be considered an alternative competitor or whatever, it's not something we're against in any way. It just in the end, yeah, we didn't focus on it, to be honest.
Gotcha. Did anybody else have any questions that they wanted to ask, or any thoughts or concerns, or riddles or jokes?
Knock, knock. No, I was curious. You mentioned dealing with enterprise data providers, and if you guys had any direction for like real world use cases of merging blockchain with like real events and stuff.
So we have talked to, and I think this has become sort of like a popular use case, or quite a few teams are doing it. So in terms of playing with like real world assets and creating indices around that, we've talked to teams that are doing stuff around the real estate space. That's in the early exploratory stages. Where we've focused most of our attention comes to building out data feeds around spot markets. So
what's the minimum viable index? And I guess I'm getting at this real world feed because you can think of some fairly esoteric things that you might want to follow on chain as a small group, but it may not be economic in order to do it. So do you have some ideas in terms of what the minimum, say, economic value and in terms of volume of commerce needs to be in order for your solution to work and to be economic?
yeah, so I think I can answer this from two perspectives, right? In terms of the feed working itself, the beauty in a VWAP feed is that so long as there's volume, there's a feed, right? There is going to be a consistent reference rate that will be pushed out, no matter if it's the same outputs over a continuous period. The feed will always be live, so long as our services are provided, right? In terms of commercial benefits, we try to, the guiding principle we have is that we try to work with teams where it makes sense for them to be ingesting our products, right? At the end of the day, things are profit driven, right? But it is our goal to make sure that cost isn't prohibitive to the end user. So if we try to work with teams where they say, hey, we need updates once every second, or we need a tick level update because that's what our product requires. If you don't have, for example, a TVL, or you don't have, let's just say the financial backing in order to pay those gas costs, then we have to figure out a different solution. And like Samuel had mentioned earlier, we have a deviation-based model instead of something that is updated on a 1 second basis, or whatever it may be, or a per block basis. So yeah, I mean, look, I think largely as data providers, what we're doing, right, is we abide by a strict set of guidelines to ingest data and then push out a product that we think is extremely competitive. But we have to service people, and people are not one and the same. So we are cognizant of that, and we work with teams to make sure that if they need a product that we have, that we can feed it to them.
Okay. And basically, from a cost perspective, your suggestion would be we'll adjust the frequency in order to accommodate
Exactly.
lack
Right.
of scale.
Exactly. Yeah. So I mean, yeah. A lot of the teams in the space, obviously, as you know, a lot of us know, are in the early stages of the process. So it's not entirely feasible to be spending, X percentage of your budget on a data feed. And so, we try to work with teams to make sure that, we help build their product. We're trying to foster a community here, so we can help build their product in a way that makes sense for them.
And is there somewhere I can look to get an idea of what the basic kind of pricing mechanism is, so I have an understanding of what to look for and whether or not a project is a good fit, or do I just have to talk to you?
Yeah, so I think the best way to be to talk to us. I don't want to use this time to sell our products, right?
No.
Commercially, but yeah,
that's why I'm asking. Yeah.
Yeah, no. So we don't have anything publicly available. I would just simply suggest, reach out to myself, and I'm more than happy to spend some time chatting with you about whatever it is that you have.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
If your intent was not to sell us a product, that was a pretty good PowerPoint you made.
Oh, hey, we threw it together one day. I don't want. It's not my best work. So everybody in here, don't judge us on it. So.
It was a really good PowerPoint. I thought that was very clean and very very useful to look at and help sort of outline everything.
Yeah, certainly. Happy to provide it. Yeah, I mean, look, I guess I don't know what the timing here is on yours guys' side, but we're more than happy to continually answer questions, now after the call. So if anybody has any specific questions, obviously I've been a long time lurker of the server, so feel free to DM me. Also be a bit more active and pinging thoughts about it. So feel free to reach out to myself, Yankee, Samuel. So.
Awesome. Yeah. No worries. I mean, this is looking like a good time to wrap up. Been about an hour. But I wanted to thank the DIA team. Thank you guys so much for coming out and sharing with the sushi community and explaining in more detail sort of what your project is and what you guys are trying to offer. Yeah. I mean, do you guys have any last closing thoughts that you wanted to say or anything like that? Or also, where should people find more information about
Yeah,
DIA
yeah,
too?
certainly.
We can do it.
So, sorry, but yeah, last thoughts. Yeah, thanks for your time, guys. Hopefully, this was somewhat beneficial. Like everyone says, our DMs are open. If you have any questions, feel free to message me here on Discord. I also live at the same handle on Telegram. Feel free to shoot us over an email at our general contact. So maybe info@diadata.org. And obviously you can click through our website. So yeah, I think that's the spiel.
Sweet. All right. Thank you guys. Does anybody just in the audience or just as a community member just have anything that they want to bring up before we sort of conclude this week?
Yeah, one last thing here, just as a kind of a question to the community in regards to the forum itself. And now with Twitter Spaces kind of growing and becoming a little more popular, just curious if anyone would thoughts around that, if it makes sense to try and implement it or look at using that, or if what we're doing here is great. I mean, this like Discord's platform works amazing. I'm so impressed with it. I don't know if Twitter would offer the same amount of abilities that Discord has for us, but just if it would help reach a larger audience, if that would help us. But just wanted to start throwing that idea around and see if anybody has any thoughts on it.
I actually messaged you and Magic Turtle last week about the proposal for Kashi Samurai, the people who want to help with customer service. And I think honestly, anything on any platform would be great just to get more of the sushi community out there more. I mean, we're active on YouTube, Twitter, Discord, we're everywhere. So really any kind of platform integration with having more people, more community people talking, I guess, on these other platforms in any way would be great. I mean, it won't work as well as Discord because I don't think it would be as connected as this, where everyone can freely talk. But I mean, any kind of community out there would be great.
Yeah, the other idea I had is trying to set up a like a rebroadcast to Twitter Spaces where like the actual space is in Discord, but the audio of this entire space is being streamed to a Twitter space that can like I guess try to increase both like the number of people listening and also the number of people like trying to get into the Sushi forum to participate.
Yeah,
But
that could be an interesting play. I
one's-
wonder if there's a way to like bridge the two together so that because if we just create a relayer between both, like people may be able to interact from both sides.
Do
you think
Oh,
that's
you mean like we could hear? Well, I mean, I know on Twitter Spaces it's more like the stage, like you have to bring people up to the stage to actually have speaking powers.
Well, but either way, like you say, even if just to start like that, just to relay it over to Twitter Space, just have whatever, the output from from one of our computers to just or audio devices or whatever, just to get it over to Twitter Space. That could be enough, and just to get it started. But that's a good idea.
I found about these AMAs was actually your guys' YouTube channel, the sushi forum on YouTube. I know it's not the biggest channel, but that's actually how I found about it. I don't know if there's a way we could push the YouTube more because I know YouTube is a very I don't personally. I know I'm not very big, obviously not very big in the community yet, but I know Sushi. We have a very very passionate community on YouTube. We're not talked about as much on a lot of these channels, which I think we need to. A lot of these YouTubers just don't bring up Sushi. Which is sad because we're incredibly undervalued. We do so much more than all the other people out there. But I don't know what we could do to get more of a voice on YouTube out there because we're not talked about on YouTube enough, in my opinion.
Sushi samurais unite.
Yeah.
And live streams. I've been saying live streams like the algorithms pull more people in, and yes, like we have a samurai on every medium and just cross attack.
But I have one question. How do you plan to give pops out if you're like running it like somewhere else? Because we need to track like the user, right?
Oh, the POAPs you said?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
How do you get them? What's the question?
Just saying if they're on Twitter, how would
Yeah, for Discord you ask you like we're using a bot to log them, right? Like who this user is, and then we are sending them out. But if you're doing it somewhere else, like Twitter or like
yes, yeah, that was something that me and Tangle discussed briefly. That like if we move to Twitter, then it also breaks the POAP bot, which would be a bummer. But we could also just have POAPs for people who are actually like in the room participating and still just like syndicate the audio basically out to different platforms.
Yeah, I think when it comes to the POAP part, we're by having it in Discord and issuing them through Discord, that's forcing people to join our server, right? So then I think the Twitter people, they can hear about it, they can listen to it, it can get the audience, but you need to be here to get the Pope. And maybe that's just an incentive to drive more people coming into the server, right, and getting active. Like so maybe it isn't necessary to actually like extend it all the way to the Twitter people, give them the FOMO that, hey, by not being into the Sushi, and not being here in the Sushi or in the Discord server and not into the, into the actual call where it originated. Yeah, it could help drive adoption. A little bit of FOMO there, maybe.
So when Discord killed the POAP bot, was there black smoke?
It was just it was more of like white smoke across the terminal where it was just failed. So actually that's what I've currently got going now is I've just ran the bot so that it kicks me out all the faileds. So everybody that's been in the room, I've got a failed report of who was here with your user IDs. So I've got Pegbatak and I have been kind of working on a solution here, likely to, similar to what Sushi Pope with the Sushi International Sushi Day POAPs. So it'd be similar. It's likely going to be going there and claiming them that way, but you'll have to do it manually with your user ID. That's kind of the solution right now, but I'll give a full announcement on how that all works and what you need to do in order to go claim it. So it's not ideal right now, but we're going to get the bots fixed and issue them that way because it's been.
We appreciate it, brother. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. So it's a cool thing. I'm glad people are into it and are digging them because they're pretty cool. They're pretty cool. So
For sure.
If more people were as devoted to the Pope as you, the world would be a better
Yeah,
place.
it's huge by now.
yeah, so no, I'm super thankful. Shout out to the Pope team as well. They've been super supportive and super helpful. So and they're stoked on what Sushi's got going on here. So yeah, that's really cool as well.
Thank you. Yeah, nice.
All right. Well, I think this is a good place to call it, guys. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. Thank you again to the DIA team for coming out. Thank you, Tangle. Thank you, Orion, for co-hosting with me. Yeah, thanks, guys. Everybody's been great.
All right, thanks everyone.
Take it
Thanks,
easy. Have a good
everybody.
night.
You again.
Thanks, guys.
Great
Thanks.
people.
Bye, guys.
Thank
Bye.
Nice
Bye.
one.
Love the communication.